This is the Photography is My Passion podcast, episode 13. In this episode, discovering your photographic style. Okay, I specifically used the word discovering in discovering your photographic style instead of developing your photographic style. And that's because I truly believe that your photographic style is in you and you just have to discover it. And it was in you before you ever touched a camera. That is truly what I believe because I think it's similar to the type of music you might like. Somebody might like hip hop, somebody else might like jazz, and a third person maybe likes grunge. And they just like it. They can't tell you why they like it, they just like it. And it's because it's part of them. We all have our own biases, our own likes, our own dislikes. And it's similar with photography. When you look at an image, you either like it or you don't like it, or you kind of like it maybe. And it's because you have biases built into you. What you might like would be different than what I might like. And what happened, how I came to this conclusion is years ago, I was an assistant to a local Buffalo photographer, and I often was a second shooter on some of the weddings he shot. And probably on the first wedding I ever did with him, he told me to basically do this, this, and this. And he specifically said, he goes, until you develop your own style, I want you to imitate my style because I know it works. And that kind of stuck with me, develop my own style. Then it kind of, was like thinking, I got to develop my own style. I can't imitate him. I got to develop my own style someday. And for a couple of years, I was thinking, how am I going to develop my own style? And I was really confused by it. And then I came to realize that you don't really develop a style, you discover it. You discover what you like and don't like. And if you think back to episode 1 of Photography is My Passion, I talked about the photographer's 3 phases of growth. And if you remember, the first phase was this phase of the technician. You just got your camera, you're learning all the technical things about your camera, all the settings, and you're learning technical things about photography, f-stops and shutter speeds and ISO. Then you're probably starting to learn some basic composition, rule of thirds and framing and things like that. Then hopefully you move on to the second stage, which is the stage of the craftsman. And that's when you're taking all these technical things you learned and you're applying them to real world situations. And often as a craftsman, you imitate other photographers. You're looking at the work of Richard Avedon and you like his work. There's something about his work you like. So you're imitating his work. And maybe you're a landscape photographer and you're imitating Ansel Adams, the zone system, and things like that. And you're doing this through discovery. You're imitating other photographers and you're discovering what you like and don't like about that photographer's work. Locally here, it's kind of an amusement between my family and a lot of my friends. There's a local photographer that often I'll go out and take a picture and put it online. And the joke is within a month, he'll have the same exact picture. It's like he stood right where I stood, used the same camera lens and the same processing, and he took the same exact picture. And to me, it's flattering. I don't mind at all. It's no big deal. And it's just kind of amusing to especially my sons and a couple of my close friends. And that's fine. That's how you learn. You imitate someone you admire, and that's why I'm flattered by it. It doesn't bother me at all. But hopefully, you move beyond that someday. So you're a portrait photographer, and you're imitating the great Richard Avedon. Well, maybe you're looking and you go, well, I really like the way he lights faces, but I don't like his plain white or gray backgrounds. I prefer my background to be like this or like that, or I like a black background or whatever. Then that's your own bias coming in and you're starting to discover what style suits you. So that's the way you should do it. When you're in that craftsman phase, imitate other work. Look at, go to 500px or Flickr or somewhere where there's a lot of images and see what you're drawn to. and deconstruct what they did. If it's, studio situation with lighting, you could deconstruct the lighting by looking at your model. See where the shading is on the model's face. Look at the catch lights in the eyes. You could see whether they're using a softbox, sometimes a ring light. You could discover, even if they're using, bounce flash and things like that, just by looking at, carefully looking at the catch lights in their eyes. Landscape photographers, see how they're using compositional rules, whether you're using rule of thirds or framing or leading lines or visual weight. Maybe you're really drawn to visual weight type images if you're a landscape photographer. And then you go out and you try to imitate those type of things. Now obviously if someone's in Tibet and you like their work and you live in Buffalo, New York, you're not going to be catching an airplane to Tibet. But you could do things locally that are similar. Just do it. Do things like that. Discover what you like and don't like. Then be a harsh critic of your own work. Look at your own work and say, well, I really like the way this came out, except I don't like, I neglected to do this or whatever, think about it. And then think what ifs. Well, what if I used F8? What if I stopped down more? What if I opened up more? And then go out and try it. Try it at different f-stops. Just because, the landscape photography book says you should be, 2 to 4 stops up from wide open on your aperture, maybe that isn't for you. Maybe you should be a different way. Maybe you should be wide open and use some really blurred backgrounds and things like that. With strong foreground or midground subjects really makes them pop more. Maybe that's more your style. So that's what you need to do. You discover your style through experimentation and imitation. And don't just get stuck on the imitation though. Make sure you add the experimentation to it. And then you should move past the craftsman phase into the last phase, and that's the phase of the artist. And that's when you're really developed your own photographic style. I said developed. I should have said found. You've discovered your own photographic style, and you know what you like, you know what you don't like, you know how you want things to look. If you're a portrait photographer, you know how you like the shading on their face, how to arrange your lights to get that. You know what types of background you like, you know what focal length lens to use to give you the look you want for your model. If you're a landscape photographer, wedding photographer, you know how you want to pose people, you know how you want to frame a scene, things like that. And that's all done through imitation and experimentation. So really it comes down to clicking the shutter. You have to go out and take a lot of pictures. You have to do it. But just don't scatter shoot. Shoot with a purpose. You're out trying to discover something. Discover your style and what you like and what you don't like and how you will utilize it for your imagery. And that's really the bottom line. That way, your images are you and they're an extension of you. I think Avedon said that the photographs that he creates aren't really about his model. They're about him. And that is so true really for any photographer. The photograph you create, it could be a portrait, like he took portraits of Twiggy, Elizabeth Taylor, Andy Warhol, I mean famous people, and you would think the photograph is about that person, but not the way he saw it. The photograph was about him. And really, that's the bottom line, is your photography is about you. And that's what you have to work towards as you work through the 3 phases of growth: technician, craftsman, artist. And keep that in mind. The whole reason you're doing this is to discover your own style. And really, I encourage you to work through it. Do what you need to do. Find the time to study other photographers that you admire and imitate them, and then experiment from there. So that's it. This is a really short podcast. I do appreciate you guys watching my videos. Thank you very, very much. I'll talk to you guys soon.